Jessica Jones season 2.
Yeah.
So Chads, tell me what you think about the season overall, and then we can go into specifics.
So I liked the season, but I think it was weaker than season 1 of Jessica Jones. It's streets ahead of the other shows that Netflix and Marvel have made. Once again, like that's Luke Cage, that's Iron Fist, that's The Defenders. I feel like Jessica Jones had like the least connection to the Defenders or whatever, like in terms of like the major story. Like maybe
Yeah,
same
I
thing with
remember it
Luke
was a
Cage.
really stupid reason why she joined the Defenders somehow. It was just like, oh, I'm just here, and then this happened, and then, hey, look, Luke Cage is here, cool. Like, it was,
Yeah,
I think it was something like that, and apparently they're not even going to try to do Defenders Season 2, which is probably,
for
good.
the best.
Yeah.
For the best. Well, look, until they come up with something that's actually good, that like, because the thing is, the Defenders should never even been the Defenders. It should have been Daredevil and Iron Fist get together and have to do things. So it should have been a Daredevil Iron Fist TV series.
Because it was very related to the Hand.
Yeah, which like obviously, like I think Daredevil, it kind of connected very like light. Oh well, no, not lightly. It does actually connect to him quite a bit. But in terms of his personal arc, it's like maybe like a secondary where it's a very primary focus for Danny Rand, as he can't really stop talking about how he's the enemy of the Fist and blah blah blah.
I only watched one episode, so and then I watched the Defenders, so.
Oh, Jesus. Like, yeah, I was talking to another friend, and he couldn't even make it through, like, I think the first, 10 minutes of the Defenders. And I'm like, you know what? That means I've got a pretty high tolerance for shit. Yeah, but the thing is, like, yeah, there is nothing for Jessica Jones to do in the Defenders outside of just being just someone who punches things. Yeah, her justification for being in the show is really, like, a shoddy at best, because it's just like, oh, I found a dead body and now I'm gonna, I don't know, find out why there's a dead body, like, here. I don't know. Like, as we can see in season 2, like, she can kind of forget about cases or not care about cases if she didn't want to. It's like, now it just kind of seems like, oh, why does she care so much, like, retrospectively?
Especially when they play the character as someone who's like, I don't need to interact with people. Like, I think,
exactly.
And then now it's like, but how did I get into the Defenders? She would have been the hard sell to get inside the whole cause of the thing, and I think she was
which to be fair is kind of true. If I remember correctly, like, they're at the Chinese restaurant and she's just like, I don't want any part of this, which does seem very in line with their character. But it's like, yeah, again, I think they need to come up with a little bit more, like, as in, oh, maybe they're dealing with like, IGH, which is like the big kind of spooky science corporation which are experimenting on people, which is kind of like the vague mystery in season 2. Like maybe they're connected to Daredevil and they're also connected to Jessica Jones, and maybe they're also connected to the Hand. Like, that's a good way to kind of get people involved and get those like sets of people involved. It seemed like they should have just waited for Jessica Jones season 2 and maybe a Luke Cage Iron Fist season 2 as well. Like, God, I don't want a season 2 of Iron Fist unless
but we are same with like Luke Cage as well. So I'm like, I don't know. Like, once again, I don't think they really said anything past that point as well, because Disney has their own channel thing or whatever now. So maybe it'll stop at this point and then go to like other stuff. So.
Well, I think they're keeping their contracts with Netflix at the moment, because I think they very much know that, well, people like Netflix, and Netflix is a good platform to push these kind of shows on. But yeah, like overall, like, yeah, I liked season 2 of Jessica Jones, but I think it's below, I guess, what is it, Daredevil season 2, if that makes sense.
Yeah, and that still had some problems, Daredevil season 2. So.
Yeah, exactly. So it would be like, again, if we were to scale, my, shows that I like, it would be, Daredevil season 1, Jessica Jones season 1, Daredevil season 2, Jessica Jones season 2, Luke Cage it kind of gets there because
the weeds in the barrel.
Yeah, because the other two are literally the Defenders and then also Iron Fist. Although I think I'd like Iron Fist more than the Defenders.
Man, that's a hard sell.
Well, I don't know. I think I'd have to watch him again, but I won't. So
hey, that speaks all volumes if you don't want to rewatch it.
Well, the thing is, there's what in Iron Fist, like one of the cool things in the show is the villain. The villain is Danny Rand's like adoptive father, and his kind of like kind of not stepbrother, but like kind of like his family friend that he grew up with. They're kind of interesting characters because again, like the best kind of characters are kind of like relatable, but then also broken. And you kind of don't really get that from some of the stuff that happens in the Defenders because it is very much like, oh well, we don't have time for character building. We're just gonna throw a bunch of toys together and see how they mash. But yeah, actually, speaking of which, what's your opinion of Jessica Jones season 2? Do you have any similar thoughts or?
Well, that's the thing. I think you might have probably liked it more than me. Like I thought it was just mediocre, maybe okay. Like I feel like there was a lot of like going through the motions, especially with Jessica Jones, where it's like okay, we're at this point again. I thought at the end of season 1 she kind of would change into a different character. But she's still kind of stuck in her ways, I guess. And until the end of the season, I guess she maybe changes her ways. But still, I felt like I don't know. This season kind of dragged for me.
Actually, I was gonna say the one thing that the showrunners didn't learn from season 1 is stretching things out. They stretched season 1 out way too much with all the stuff that was happening with Kilgrave. Oh, they captured Kilgrave, and then Kilgrave escaped, and then they captured him again, and then he escaped again, and then they capture him once more, and hey, guess what? He escapes again, right? Although as I mentioned, he should have only escaped twice. That should have been like the thing. Otherwise, it just becomes a bit of a pattern. With this, it's kind of like the same thing. Jessica Jones captures the bad guy, takes the bad guy in, contemplates handing them into the police, doesn't do it, escapes, rinse, repeat, something like at least in some kind of very similar basis, and it's like it drags on a little bit.
Yeah, and it was basically just being like it was more of a, I guess, personal story, but like I don't know, I felt like this season had a lot of like you could definitely tell there was a lot of different subplots going on, and obviously some are more or less even than others. For example, for example, the best part of this whole season wasn't even Jessica Jones's character and her character arc. It was actually Carrie-Anne Moss's character of Jerry, the head female lawyer, and I think she's like she's got that disease. I forgot what it's called.
It's ALS.
Yeah, like I found like her character arc very interesting in like how she's coping as a character, dealing with that type of issues and. Basically, she's like, you could say the white Amanda Waller in some sense. I don't know where that's going, especially when it comes into season 3. But I feel like she's kind of the one to watch out about. The one thing I didn't like about that particular part, though, however, was this subplot with, I think it was that lady nurse girl and like the guy who can heal people, quote unquote. I felt like that stuff was just that was kind of like a red herring for her, I guess, being evolved as a new character. So.
Well, the thing is, like, and we'll go through it. First of all, I guess we'll talk about kind of what the story is for this season. So, kind of breaking off from season 2 of season 1 of Jessica Jones. Jessica's had to kill Kilgrave, and finally escapes from, I guess, his wrath, so to speak, and she's kind of back to being a kind of mediocre, really good detective, PI. We have Malcolm again. I actually really liked Malcolm in season 1. This season, we'll see.
Once again, just briefly, he was just kind of there. Like, once again, it's it's what you said about the Flash characters. Like, he was there more for season 1 and season 2. They're just like, we'll shove you in like a few scenes, but like you have nothing really much to do.
Well, the thing is, like, the thing that they did try and flesh a lot of the characters out this season, but I'll just summarize what this season is. So essentially, there's a little bit of a continuation where, just I think from season 1 they mentioned how there was a mysterious corporation called IGH, which was basically the people who overlooked her experimentation, or well, essentially her medical records. She was like, I think, missing for about 7 days or so. And so there's like a bit of a mystery behind this secret organization called IGH, and you're trying to figure out who did this. And upon investigating, there is like a mysterious killer, another like stupid individual who is also kind of murdering people. Very similar powers to Jessica Jones, but yeah, like she has to kind of deal with this and then come to terms with like some of the other stuff. That's like the main A storyline in this show, but then you have like I guess the B and C storylines, which I guess the B storyline is like maybe Trish's storyline, and then the C storyline is Jerry's kind of Jerry Hogarth's storyline. But let's start with Jessica. What do you think about Jessica's character this season?
Once again, I felt like, for the, I guess the redemption of the end of season 1, where she was kind of like free of Kilgrave, I felt like that was really good, but once again, it kind of came back to the same motions. I guess like there's, I guess it's more like in the family, like I very felt like this, season was like, okay, we're gonna focus more personally on these characters, even though that sounds really weird because Kilgrave was very a personal story. But like, this is more personal because once again, spoilers. It's her mum. That's her. That kills people and stuff like that. So I know there was a lot of that type of thing, and I was just once again, it just felt relatively average. Especially of the conflict of like, she's my family, but is she against me? Is she for me? And it kind of went back and forth, and it at some point I kind of got sick of that a little bit, especially like the doctor guy, the Dr. Carl.
Carl Mollis.
Miles. Yeah, I felt like I can kind of see the connection between him and the mum, with Alyssa. But still, like like Jessica in herself, I guess has some like arc, I guess, as a character. Like, but I felt she kind of stayed the same way. Like, once again, they introduce a love interest, but it's actually like a permanent, I guess, maybe love interest. We'll see if that pans out. But like, I felt like it was kind of, there's some more involvement, but as you said before, I felt like this season was very much about the side characters and building them up for the next season, I suppose.
Yeah. Well, me personally, with Jessica Jones, the thing is, I didn't really expect her to kind of go back to be like, not go back to, but rather become like a new person who like has learnt a lot of things. I think that's very much not in line with the Jessica Jones that they've created in this world. Like, to keep her interesting, she has to be this person who is constantly struggling with her mental state, and dealing with the fact that she killed someone, and constantly drinking alcohol and pushing people away. That it makes for good drama, right? It makes for a good reason why I can't trust anybody, kind of thing. It's what keeps a character interesting. But yeah, no, I would agree. So Dr. Mollis, Carl Mollis, his character is supposed to be, I kind of felt throughout this season like people constantly blamed him for killing, not killing, like saving Jessica, and then potentially killing other people that they experimented on, but
to perfect the formula, I guess.
But I don't think he killed anyone to perfect the formula per se. Like, all the people he, at least in the context of the show, they explained him as being like a scientist who, basically he dealt with patients who maybe are on like near deathbed or are about to die, and he basically trials his experiments on them to try and save them and try and make the next generation of whatever it may be. Him as a character never seemed to be a bad guy, but then constantly the show is saying, whether it's from the perspective of Jessica, whether it's from the perspective of her friend Patricia, they're saying, oh, you killed all those people, you made me like this. But in the end, he never did anything that was outwardly malicious. So I never personally sympathized with the main character's view on Dr. Mollis.
Well,
Again,
what about the mum? Because like her one is like obviously she can't really control her rage, but like at the same time you I guess you kind of feel sorry, but at the same time like it's like one of those like damned if you do, damned if you don't type of things, you know?
Well, the thing is, I guess like the priority becomes like whether he lets her live or die, right? That kind of is what it comes from, and in the character is supposed to be, I guess he's supposed to be like a mad scientist, right? And actually, I just looked it up on Wiki right now. He is a fictional mad scientist.
There we go.
But he doesn't ever come off as being like a bad guy per se, like a mad guy, but not a bad guy, right? So I maybe that's like what Marvel tried to do with this season to make him like, ooh, is he good or ooh, is he bad? It's like, no, I don't actually necessarily see him as being a bad guy in this show, despite like maybe that's what they were trying to do. Obviously, there are maybe the ethics about like experimenting on people without their consent and things like that, and obviously that goes through a completely like different category. But I don't think the guy like usually the way you convey this in TV and movie is like you'll have a scene where like he does something that's kind of objectively or like kind of bad per se, like
morally bad.
Yeah, exactly, like a moral thing, like he's like yes, finally, I have a chance to experiment on more people and spread, like some kind of like neurosis or some kind of obsession or something. But he never does that in this show. Like he never is seen as like, oh, like he's constantly just like, oh, I just want to help these people. Like maybe that's his kind of neurosis. Like he's constantly just trying to help all these like kind of broken people or people on near death. But I don't think that's like the worst thing or the worst characteristic someone could have. So I think I actually really liked his character because I guess I resonate because I come from like a biology science background. But at the same time, like I need, like for me to not like a character, they need to do like really bad things. Like for example, like even Jessica like kills another person in this season, but I don't necessarily think she's a bad person for doing it. And she's done subjectively worse things. I really liked his character. The mum, I like the mum. Like, I found it interesting that, like, oh, okay, like, she's kind of suffering having all these, like, I guess, ashes of her family, and it turns out, oh, they're all fake. Like, that's got to be something really interesting for the character to kind of have to deal with. Like, not only was the ashes that she kind of kept so close to her fake, but now her mum's alive. Like, it introduces a really interesting dynamic. I like the episode where they go back to
the flashback where it's like when they're all younger. Yeah, I did like that. And once again, I like how episodes have like a season will have like at least one episode that's like a flashback or will be like more of an exposition dump of like an episode. Like here, there's all the backstory that you all need. But I like that whole journey and everything like that.
Yeah, well, it explained like why she called her place Alias, why she always has like a leather jacket on and stuff like that. It's really interesting, like how they're explaining certain elements.
Especially if how Jessica Jones, I guess, turned into Jessica Jones and the way she is like now, I suppose.
Yeah, and what's really funny? I mentioned it before, I think, with Altered Carbon, how there's like one episode where the character's trapped in a room, and they do an episode where it's her and her mother trapped in that room, which is like underneath the house that her mum was having a hideout in. Yeah, the lake house. And you know what? It's the same thing happened in Punisher. Again, I think it was like maybe episode 2 or 3. The Punisher and Micro, they're stuck in. He's interrogating Micro in like the garage.
It's that algorithm again. They're just like people really like these episodes where people are trapped in one area and like have to discover people's backstories.
Yeah, it's weird. Well, but you know what? That's what I'm saying. Like it is part of this algorithm, I reckon. But I think it is definitely the show is kind of suffering a little bit.
If you want to talk about that, what's something that's definitely not in the algorithm is that one side character that had nothing got to do with anything, which is that Price guy, the other detective who really, really hates Jessica, because she's superpowered. That I did,
right. I'm like, there's Costa and then there's her.
Yeah, and I'm just like, what is this storyline? It doesn't even come to full fruition. He's just there and then tries to kill them one time, and it's like, where is this going?
Well, the thing is, I actually really like Costa's character because I didn't remember him from season 1, but I did like that, like, he was on her side, and the reason was because of the really cool episode where, you know, Kilgrave, like, you know, goes into the police, you know, station and has everybody, like, you know, all the cops, like, with their guns out, like, like, ready to shoot everyone, right? And Costa was, like, in there, and he mentions how, like, you know, I had all these nightmares because of him, but then they stopped because you killed him. Like, that, you know, that connected, like, it made the world feel more connected, and the, I guess, connections between Costa and Jessica Jones very genuine. Whereas, like, you know, maybe some other characters just like, really, like, that's your connection with this person? Like, I don't know. I think the thing is, with the show, it can kind of be hit and miss with certain things. Like, yeah, you're right. Like, with the Price character, like, she's just the kind of supposed to be this person who really hates supers. She's really like a hot, like, you know, fire detective who it just doesn't keep back with her opinions about supers and stuff, and then she ends up dying because, you know, I guess to prove a point that supers are dangerous, and she was right all along,
Something
but not
like
really.
that.
Like, you know, it's stuff like that.
There's
right?
like they try to do a weird Dark Knight thing. I'm like, I don't know, you didn't really reach that, did you?
Also, I don't think her name's Price. I think her name is Ruth Sunday. Ruth Sunday.
Once again, it's very. I don't remember. It was
Price,
very.
Price is Price Cheng. Like, she's one of Jerry's associates. That's who Price is. But, you know, we can move on to, let's say, Patricia, right? Trish Walker, Patsy, whatever you want to call it. What did you think about Patsy?
I thought she was relatively insufferable. I think she's probably the weakest point, probably, of this show. I don't know. I guess I can see her motivation of being like, she wants to be more active, and I could see that, you know, in season 1, you can definitely see that, where she wants to be more involved and do the detective work, and she's got her connections. But I feel like, you know, maybe the first, like, 5 episodes, I think, in Jessica Jones season 2 was pretty good with her. And then, as soon as I think she got addicted to that performance drug, I think, like, that there was, like, a random switch, like, within, like, one episode, she's like, yeah, I'm hooked on it. And then she just has this weird urge to be like, I want to be this super person taking care of everyone. Like, I feel like it didn't really earn it. I felt like if she wanted to get that, you know, something really bad should happen to her, or, like, you know, she would have been, like, you know, kidnapped or something for, like, an episode or two, and she would have been so traumatized that she's like, I want to be a superhero, and then undergo that. And, yeah, I don't know. At the end of the season, obviously the friendship is fractured, and you can see a little glimpse of certain things around the end where you're like, I don't know.
Yeah, she's kind of superpowered. That's the point.
But once again, it was, I don't know. Once again, I personally think it wasn't earned, and especially her weird character arc of being like friendly, nice, to all of a sudden being like, I'm gonna murder people and I'm gonna take my drugs and stuff. Like, I felt that was a random, like, a 180 that was it was not earned. That's generally my thing.
The thing is, right, there's a little bit of that in season 1. I thought, like, because there's the thing with her and Simpson, who is basically kind of obsessed with her. He's like I guess a former, like, you know, naval. Yeah. Well, yeah, he's a love interest. In the comics, he's a supervillain called Nuke. But in the show itself, he kind of comes back and is trying to protect her. I remember one of the cool scenes was, you know, he's taking, like, these performance enhancing drugs, and she takes one too in order to try and fight against him. And I thought that was, like, a really cool scene. And I think that is kind of, like, lays the ground for her, you know, maybe taking that performance enhancing kind of, I guess, asthma pump thing.
Yeah, once again, I didn't feel that well explained, did it? Like, it just came out of kind of nowhere. Like, well, I don't know.
Yeah, well, the thing is, I think, you know, Trish Walker, she actually is a superhero known as Hellcat, right? So I think they're slowly building up to having her become super. Obviously, it's kind of what happens at the end of this season. What I kind of, because I did a little bit of research, like originally, Patsy Walker was the star of like a teen romantic comedy comic book series. But then, like, once Marvel became more superhero oriented, they turned it into a superhero. So that's kind of like what we're seeing here. Like, she's, everybody like in universe remembers her as being, a childhood star, and she is kind of supposed to be like a broken, Hollywood star. And, like I like how they kind of explored that, with her, with like the Maximilian guy who, like, molested her when, she was like, a child star. Like that's very much like, what we're seeing in like media of like, child stars being, I guess, corrupted by like this Hollywood system that is like not controlled or, properly, supervised at all. But then at the same time, like, yeah, you're right. Like it is, she does like a bit of a 180 in terms of, what she does. But I think like in character it kind of makes sense because again, she has like an addiction problem.
Yeah, like they
so
always overshadow her past. She always had a big addiction problem, and there was that flashback episode, so that kind of justifies it, I suppose. But I don't know.
They mentioned her addiction in season 1 from memory. They did. So it's not the worst thing that I saw, but I definitely understand. Like, yeah, like it doesn't really go anywhere. But I did kind of like the scenes where you can see like she's just hopped up and she's just ready to fight people, and like it is weird when like Jessica's the one like who's trying to calm her down. Like she's quite hot-headed herself.
It's like it's real life steroids.
Yeah, exactly. So, I'm interested in seeing what happens to her. Like, it's probably going to just be like, she gets into costume and she fights people, right?
Yeah, but like, and that will probably have at least a semi-cool thing, because once again, like, I didn't like that character transition, but I'm kind of excited for the future, I suppose, because like, if you have Jessica and then you have Trish, and then they'll have like, since their friendship is split, I'm assuming Trish is kind of going to go her own way and then like fight crime on herself. And then on occasion, Jessica's going to meet up with her and then figure some stuff out. And at some point, I don't know if they're going to team up at some point, which they probably will. But like throughout the whole season, I can write the third season here already. Like,
okay, well, no, this is what's going to happen. It's going to be there's a case. It comes to Jessica. She kind of, reluctantly accepts it. Trish, on the other hand, is maybe exploring IGH more, and she's now fighting people. And then because she's in costume, Jessica fights her. She doesn't want to reveal her identity to Jessica, so she doesn't reveal herself, and I don't know, Jessica kicks her ass or something. But then there's the whole reveal, like, oh, yo, that superhero I fought. And then they get together and fight together, and I don't know, take down IGH, do things with IGH.
Well, I think it'd be something with the Carrie Ann Moss character, the Jerry, and like what she's planning with that Malcolm guy and the Price. Cause
true.
They're just true. We have this deal. I'm like, okay, and Jessica doesn't have to know. I'm like, okay, go on. It's like, it will have to be some sort of weird corporate thing or something like that, or like, maybe Jerry will be like, I'm gonna run for mayor or something like that old trope, and then like try to control stuff.
I don't know. I think the whole Jerry thing is just supposed to be her. She's just like, we can kind of connect maybe Jerry and Malcolm together. What do you think about Malcolm this?
I don't know. He came and went very quickly. I feel like he kind of assisted with Rachel, not Rachel, Trish for quite a bit. But like in the end, I don't know. He obviously he kind of gets sick of being with Jessica Jones. He's like, hey, at the end of this season, I thought you said you were going to help me, and clearly did not work. And like Jessica's kind of more of an isolation person. And so obviously Malcolm's kind of his own person now, and he's kind of left and doing his own thing, which I once again, I like that they're putting these characters in these places. I feel like it wasn't, I guess, as justified maybe like in his character. Like I think his character is more justified than it was Trish's character to change characters, because you can see the more dynamic between Malcolm and Jessica and how that would work, rather than Jessica and Trish, and then Trish being like, I want to be superpowered. But yeah, he was okay, but he was kind of just there, I suppose.
Well, yeah, I kind of liked how you kind of saw a little bit more of him this season because you can see, he's constantly coming in and fixing Jessica's wall, which was broken, I think during the fight with Simpson and Trish last season. So, it's really cool that he does all this stuff for her, but like, obviously he's doing it to get in her good books, right? But she obviously doesn't care at all, and he just does it because, like, I guess out of obligation and respect for his mentor per se, but then like, obviously it doesn't come to fruition. His character, last season was like, he was a drug addict and
See,
Jessica
that was conflicting.
kind of,
It was good,
yeah, yeah, it was interesting. Whereas with this, it's like the one thing I kind of thought was like a bit artificial was Malcolm and Trish getting together, because I think there's a thing with like a lot of shows that they do is like, oh, here are some established characters. Oh, well, let's just put these two together and see what happens, right? And I think it just kind of takes out like a lot of the elements certain characters have, and it just makes it really awkward from a writing standpoint, because now, yeah, they're not friends anymore. Okay, like it's just like a
like
really
you just
forced
had it for like
romance.
fan service, and then it kind of disappeared.
Yeah, kind of thing. It's just really
The 2 episodes ago for Riverdale when they kissed in the hot tub. I'm like, okay, that was clearly some fan service for people.
yeah. Well, like I mean, again, like it's okay to have fan service and it's okay to put people together, but like for me, because these are like established characters and the thing what they usually do with like romance is like they'll introduce a new character, maybe of the opposite sex to, the main character. For example, Oscar Orocho, who, is like kind of the, I guess, superintendent, I think, or super something, right? Of the apartment. Like he gets introduced and he's kind of Jessica's love interest. Like he hates her at first because, ooh, she's super powered and I hate police and stuff like that. And I make fake passports. But
But don't worry, I have a heart of gold.
he has a heart of gold, right? But like that's how I guess they usually establish like love interests. Whereas like with established characters, it's usually, oh, he's a pool of characters we've introduced, and you know if they're going to have a romantic interest in each other, they usually establish it early on, like, oh, there's some tension. Whereas like this kind of seemed like, oh well, they're in the same room. Let's put them
Might as well.
together. But yeah, like I don't think it really added anything outside of like, okay, like yeah, they both are former addicts, and so they used each other. But outside of that, like again, it isn't like a point that I was really interested in exploring from like a character perspective, because it isn't their story that's going to be elaborated further about because of the conflict that they have with that. So I just thought that was kind of a bit boring. But overall, like Malcolm, like yeah, it's good that he's kind of become independent, and that obviously means like he could be like a potential rival for Jessica next season in whatever cases that they do. He's also in the comics, but I don't remember exactly what his role is. But yeah, like it's a thing. I guess we can move on to Oscar. So the new superintendent. I thought him and his son were like an interesting addition to the show, and again, it's like again they're being Jessica's new love interest. Also tries to bring up a little bit more of like normalcy for her.
Yeah. I guess once again it might like level the Jessica in a sense of like having a traditional family, because once again this season I think was more akin to what family issues and having a normal family, bringing up there's even like I guess you could say parallels between Trish's mom as well, and like how her mom treats her and things like that. So yeah, maybe once again at the end of the season it kind of ended on a really good note, and I hope that it's not one of those shows where it's like, yeah, and let's forget that kind of happened and then scrub that off. So I think he's an okay character. Once again, it was one of those the weird thing about this season, I felt like they introduced a few characters, did a few things, and they kind of disappeared and then came back. Like, I feel like the Oscar character, he was there for maybe the first 4 episodes, disappeared kind of in that middle, and then came back kind of like semi-mid-end bit. Like, I feel like he disappeared quite a bit.
Well, he kind of disappears, and then he becomes an important character when his son gets kidnapped, right?
Yeah.
And Jessica and her mum kind of chases after him, and then he makes fake passports for them. Like that's literally like his role. He just makes fake passports for people, or fake IDs so Jessica can go into places. Like I think that's his role. Like again,
It was
it's the
literally
same thing.
for that one reason.
Yeah, well, I mean, that's kind of like, it's the same thing with Arrow in a sense, if you think about it. Like, Trish's character is literally playing the role as the rich person who they have, like, unlimited resources from, right? Whereas, like, in Arrow, that's, Green Arrow. Although I think he's poor now from memory. I can't remember if they're rich or poor at the moment, but yeah. On Batman, it's, Bruce Wayne, he's the guy who bankrolls everything. And yeah, so Patricia in the show bankrolls everything, and then you have Jessica, she's her own IT department, and she is like her own kind of semi-hacker in a sense, like because of all the research that she does. She doesn't need like an IT department. And then, kind of Oscar fills the, hey, I can make you like fake IDs and fake passports to get into places. That's like their role in the show.
Pretty much, yeah.
Okay. So what about the mother, Elisa Jones?
Once again, I don't know. Like, I like her conflict and I like her character of like, she really wants to help Jessica, but obviously she can't control what she is and things like that. I just thought it was okay, or good, I suppose. Like, I feel like once again there needed to be less of it, and I think the weird part of this season was there wasn't necessarily a villain per se, like in the whole season.
Yeah.
So it was kind of like it was very much just like this is happening, and this was like the major conflict. I thought I would feel like it would have been a better probably job if they had something like an overarching, like if they really did play the evil doctor to be actually like evil scientist be actually really evil, and and then the mum would be like trying to protect him because there's like some sort of weird like effect where she loves him because she helped him, and then that would have been a better conflict in a sense instead of just then like pretty much fizzle out the end of like the mother and everything like that. I felt like it was, and it was very weird. It's like a very big nitpick, and it's a spoiler. Is when the Trish character shoots her in the head. I'm like, okay, like I know she has like superhuman abilities, so she can like sniper shot someone from a freaking pistol. But man, it came out of nowhere. Like how she all of a sudden just went there. She beat the cops and everyone there. I don't know. It was weird.
Well, okay. Well, to be fair, I don't necessarily have a problem with that because Trish, you can tell that when Costa talks to Trish about, hey, do you know this area? Is there anywhere they would go? You can tell that Trish immediately realized where it was because Jessica probably told her that. I think that actually.
I think it was it was in the flashback. I think.
No, it wasn't in the flashback. It's like when they were talking on the rooftop or something like that. She mentioned, "Oh, we used to go to this place," and she's like, "Oh, I never knew that." It's like, "Yeah, well, I never talk about it," or something like that. And so when she mentioned it, you could tell, oh, she realized straight away what that place was. My issue is that she was able to shoot her in the head, all the way from the bottom of like a Ferris wheel and like square her right in the head. Whereas I think I think it's like Chang. It's like one of the rival, companies for.
The sniper, yeah.
Yeah, he had a sniper rifle, and he missed like all his shots on trying to kill Jessica and her mother. Well, rather her mother. Because in the previous episode, Elisa Jones had killed like an associate of his. And I was like, he had a sniper rifle. Sure, he was further away, and you have to predict wind and stuff like that.
Don't try to justify this.
Yeah. But I'm just saying, like, at least he was a little bit more well equipped to deal a headshot.
Oh, I'm gonna do a pistol all the way from down here, and we'll figure it out. Yeah, that was a little bit weird, but that's a nitpick. So how did you feel about the mom, anyways, and her whole character arc? I suppose.
I think the thing is, I think I agree with what you were saying before about like there isn't like a villain this season, right? Like there isn't like a Kilgrave who's like looming and constantly like someone you have to be scared about. I think at the very beginning the mystery is very good because it's like, who is this IGH? Let's go explore. Hey, there's this killer around. Let's see what there is. And then it turns out to be her mother and this kind of nice, kind of crazy, mad scientist dude. And now we have to put them in jail because they did do bad things. right? Obviously they did bad things and we should put him in jail. And then it's constantly about that. Then it becomes a little bit more drama related rather than something action related, right?
Yeah, once again,
And I
it
think
had a
that's
lot of
kind of,
weird, like, tonal shifts quite a bit
and
in
I
the
think
show.
that's what killed the mystery of the show. I think the mystery was very interesting. I'd love to see them kind of explore more of the IGH thing. And I guess that's what they were trying to do, but like, yeah, like in the end, that's not what kind of happens. And so I think it kind of falls flat at the end. And they kind of do a Deus Ex Machina at the end, like with Trish, like, again, like and it's not because of her headshot, but it's a constant thing with the last episode. I was thinking, okay, how are they gonna make it so they kill Alyssa Jones at the end, without it actually being Jessica's fault, right?
Yeah, once
Because
again, it could never be that.
no, but it's a very typical thing with a lot of writing that they do for, like, maybe Batman or someone. It's like, oh, like, how is Batman going to take out this villain without like killing them or stuff like that? And usually if you have good writers, they'll write in like a really nuanced way of how he takes care of this person. Like, even if it's like, he saves the Joker, but like, it leads to other ramification. It's like, oh, well, we can't have Jessica kill the person, so it's like they get killed in an accident or they get killed by a third party, and so they don't have to feel guilty about actually killing that person. It's this kind of literary technique, or this kind of, I guess, technique that they use, where it's like, again, there's drama now between Trish and Jessica because Trish shot her mom, right? That's the whole reason why they made that there. So there's like this kind of zone that pushes them apart. But
They needed that to happen.
Yeah, but like, yeah, but it's kind of already clear that Jessica kind of can keep a distance from Trish because, it happened when they were younger. Like, they did a flashback of her not seeing her friend for over a month or something, and this is just supposed to be, well, I won't see you for exactly 1 year, right?
To the day,
till next
I
season.
count.
Yeah, till next season. That's literally what I'd imagine it would be.
Probably.
But yeah.
Actually, talking about people killing and stuff like that, the one episode where Kilgrave came back,
Yeah.
I thought that was a good episode. I just wish that there was more warning, I guess, with David Tennant's like return, I suppose, because like, obviously, like, I thought that, like, one episode, like, you can't hire him all the time, but I thought like, if you wanted him to kind of come back and it was a little bit more of a subtle way, you'd have it throughout the whole season, kind of like what we were talking about before with Batman Arkham Knight, how the Joker's kind of looming there, kind of have like his voice kind of there, but never really see him until Jessica finally kills that guy and then he appears. Like, I felt like if they had like a subliminal voice that like on occasion just said random stuff in the background and then building up to that point, it'd be really cool. But all of a sudden they're just like, wouldn't it be cool if we have Kilgrave for like one episode and they just bring him back for one episode? Like, I felt like you could have built up on it a little bit more instead of just being like, bam, here he is,
Well, yeah, I agree. Like, I think, like, it felt very, like, I liked David Tennant back in his role, even if it's temporary, right?
Yeah.
But again, he's supposed to kind of be like, Jessica's psyche kind of breaking a little bit, right? Her kind of going over the edge, and she kind of like, gets a grip and is like, I'm stronger than you. I won't do anything. And that's fine. But I think, like, yeah, again, it would have been better if there's like these subtle hints that, like, she sees him at a distance and is just like, what the hell? Like, that's a much better way as showing, like, obviously maybe the scheduling of the filming is the reason why they couldn't do anything.
Yeah, I think
right?
David Tennant's filming another comic book thing.
Is he?
I think it's called Good Omens, I think, and I think it's the Neil Gaiman. It's another Neil Gaiman adaptation. So the guy did American Gods and things like that. But once again, I think that's coming out this year or next year. So we'll see. But yeah.
Yeah, I guess we should maybe record a podcast for that when it comes out.
Trust me, I feel like it's going to be a long time before that comes out.
Oh, okay. Well, that's fair enough.
Don't worry, this podcast will go on forever. So.
Yeah, forever. Yeah, like I just don't see his character properly utilized other than like that episode. She's constantly there. It would have been better if he was like kind of spaced out, and then maybe that was when everything accumulates, as you said, like when she kills that security guard. At the same time, I think like a lot of characters throughout, they seem to be like really big, I guess, like exaggerated characters that they deal with, like whether they're just random characters. Like as you said, like with Ruth Sunday, they're just like this character that's just over the top and over exaggerated to kind of give the character an easy way to be like, yeah, I hate you, or you're wrong, or something. And I think that's constantly something that they have to deal with. Same thing with that security guard. He's like, turns out to be this massive asshole. But I don't think that's good writing, because it's just like, okay, yeah, this is obvious that nobody is supposed to like a character like this. I kind of, when I go and watch Jessica Jones, I always kind of expect like a very nuanced look at like the human condition and how people, like, not everything is just black and white when it comes to Jessica Jones.
Yeah, especially with Jessica Jones, like with stuff like Daredevil and stuff like that, you can have that. There's some of that, but I feel like a lot of it could be a very like cartoony in a sense, where it's like, yeah, good versus bad. But like with Jessica Jones, I felt like, once again, it was more personal. It's more about the human, like friendships and relationships, that it should have that particular, I guess, thing to it. But yeah.
And I guess like the last character, would be Jerry Hogarth. I think like she's the other kind of major character in the show. I'll let you start off with this one, since you said you really liked her character.
Yeah, I did. Like, yeah, because once again, last season you can clearly tell she's like kind of one of those independent people, but like she kind of has like a semi-soft spot, or she's kind of like playing everyone in a sense. But they really come into full fruition in season 2. You know, once she gets found out she's sick, and you know, she has that kind of like heart of gold, where it's kind of like, I'm going to take people in because I'm sick, and I forgot the probably psychological term for it, where it's like you want to believe in something so much that you want it to happen.
Okay. Yep.
Yeah. So
sure.
you know, the mutant or whatever with the healing powers, and
yeah, Shane.
Yeah. So yeah, once again, I didn't like the character of Shane and like the nurse chick.
Nurse, yeah.
But I liked Carrie Ann Moss's character. I guess kind of evolving from that fragile state to someone who's like, I'm gonna screw everything over because I'm the best. And I realize, once again, she's kind of a boss. She's kind of a mean person, especially with the end with the whole pistol thing. And I'm like, yeah, I want to know more about her more than actually any other character in this whole show at the moment. Because yeah, I feel like she's gonna do something. And hopefully they're going to flesh that out in the next season, if there is one. I'm assuming there would be. But,
Okay, you see, so I have the exact opposite. Not the exact opposite, but like, I don't know. I didn't like her character that much this season because, okay, so all the things that happened to her. So like, so she hires Jessica in order to investigate the other two partners of her law firm, right? Essentially, in the show, she's being asked to get kicked out, or not asked to be kicked out, but rather get bought out.
Take the settlement because you're sick, and you know investors don't like sick people.
And so her partners are basically like, yeah, get out. We're going to give you a severance package, and she says no, and she kind of originally hires Jessica and by extension Malcolm to try and investigate these people, and she's diagnosed with ALS. And like, again, a lot of her stuff from season 1 is kind of brought back here. Like, she's kind of dealing with the fact that, she was at the time in the middle of a divorce, and also that her wife gets brutally murdered in season 1. But the thing is, like, in this season, it's like, yeah, like, so there is a mutant called Shane who has the ability to heal anyone that he touches. And she basically saves this guy, takes in this nurse that used to work in IGH, and has him living in the house. The thing is, from the very beginning, I could tell that, like, her goal, like, she kind of comes off, like, as a little bit, at least in the show, as supposed to be, like, a somebody who kind of, because she comes from, like, a position of power, she is kind of like that boss who you get scared of because of the hashtag #MeToo movement. Like no. Like I legitimately say this because, like, so Cheng and the other partner talk about her taking the settlement because she had an affair with, like, her wife was essentially somebody who used to work at her firm, And she said, well, this girl was basically all over me. She basically did the splits in front of me kind of thing, right?
Mm-hmm.
So for me, when she took in the nurse at her house, I never saw it as she's doing it because it's coming from the kindness of her heart. Like, she's doing it because she's attracted to this woman and wants to potentially take advantage of the fact that she was homeless and now is under her care. Because even Jessica thought it was weird. It's like, oh, I thought you said you were gonna have her stay at a share house, not a share house, not a shelter, but like, just like a house that she can kind of hide away while they solve the case. And she's like, no, you can stay at my house. And then she again, like, has sex with her. But then she gets played in the end, right? Like, so Shane and the nurse basically, they're not really, so Shane's not really a healer, and they basically do this long con where they basically steal all this stuff from her, and then pawn it off. And she kind of is wrought because, Jessica reveals, because Jessica comes in and she's like, yeah, this is really sus. And then reveals to her later that, there was no,
she's not even involved with that.
Yeah, there's no person who was able to heal anyone. And then she realizes that, gets home and sees that she's been robbed. The entire time, I don't feel any kind of sympathy for her, because everything that happened to her happened because she made bad decisions the whole way through. And then, even at the very end, right? Like, you call it a badass moment where she, like, gets the gun and gives it to her. She just the nurse straight up believes that.
Yeah, I felt that was a little bit strange, yeah.
Yeah, like, all right, here she is. She doesn't look at this evidence that Jerry has. And, it's revealed at the end, those are just, like, these random notes that she had. And she did, like, essentially she was just saying that, like, oh, he's manipulating you. He has all these women who's giving him money and saving all this money away from her, and hands her a gun to shoot him with. Like, that's really extreme. And it just worked out in the end because of just, like, I don't know, the universe working out in her favor. Like, I don't necessarily, like, she does all this bad shit, suffers the consequences for it, but then she gets away with it in the end, and she does, like, a bad thing. She, like, ends up, like, inadvertently leading to, like, their murder and maybe causing psychological stress in, like, the nurse because she just murdered someone, and she calls the cops. Like, that's her big plan, but the plan doesn't make much sense. And yeah, like, again, I agree. I actually really do like Hogarth's character, but I think she just makes a lot of bad decisions and then doesn't get punished for any of it. So it's just like this really bad writing in the end. But again, that's my opinion.
Yeah, because once again, I like Jerry's character and, like, her evolution to it. I feel like, and what you're harping on is, like, it wasn't earned, or, like, it was very weird. And once again, I feel like as a whole, the whole season kind of felt like that, where it's like, a lot of this stuff wasn't really earned. Like, you had an idea, and then you went to the next extreme. Like, okay, like, Jessica Jones's character, and then, her mom's character, and figuring that out, Trish's character, and all of a sudden being like, I want to help people. Like, I feel like, overall, if you want to talk about the season, it was, I guess, a mixed bag in a sense, where it's like, you had some good concepts, good ideas, some executed kind of well, and some were just kind of like, you could have done better with it. And that's what I felt like the whole season was, in a sense, where it's like, it's okay, it's average. Like, if you like Jessica Jones, you might as well watch it. But, like, if you didn't like Jessica Jones at all, or any of these Marvel films, you're probably not going to like any of this. Like, to watch the second season, you would probably have to be a person who kind of enjoys this stuff quite a lot. Like, I feel like not as many people are talking about this second season than they are when the first season of Jessica Jones came out. Because there was, like, a month and a half that people just non-stop talking about it. And this is kind of, like, already kind of disappeared already, I guess, in the ethos of TV.
But at the same time, I think there's a lot of competition when it comes to TV now. It is getting harder. Like, I forget when the first season of Jessica Jones came out, but like, there's all these shows coming out, like, every, like, week almost. I'm pretty interested in seeing again what happened. I think it came out in 2015. Yeah, November 20th, 2015. So it's been like a few years since the first season come out, and the only thing we had post it is The Defenders to care about Jessica
Defenders.
Jones. Yeah, like, nobody cares about The Defenders. But yeah, like again, I really like Kirsten Ritter. Again, like she plays the role of like an alcoholic PI who hates people, but then was also really like kind of, I don't know, broken inside. Again, it's something that we can all kind of semi-sympathize with as like people. And like again, with this season, like yeah, it's maybe a mixed bag, but maybe it's because it's a lot of these characters that we like put into situations that maybe they don't really act in character very well at, or they're just kind of yeah, the writers just personally, I feel like the writers just didn't do a good job.
Yeah, I feel like there was a lot of, like, once again, it didn't build up to something as well as, like, they wanted to. Like, they could have, once again, with the Carrie Ann Moss character, it'd been like, hey, you know, instead of just, like, in a car and have one scene being like, yeah, there's all these girls, now here's the gun, it could have been built up a little bit more. Or, like, Kilgrave's character, instead of him just appearing for the sake of appearing, build up that kind of, like, paranoia until that episode of that reveal. Like, I feel like there's a lot of, like, random stuff you could have done, maybe, to be like, you know, built it up to make it everything to be more justified, I suppose.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, but I guess, you know, we'll see where they go with Jessica Jones. Like, it's probably going to get a third season, because I think I haven't heard too many bad things, at least from, like, I guess, mainstream media about, you know, the season. And yeah, like, I wouldn't mind a third season. It'll be interesting to see, does it go more down to earth, or does it go more like kooky and superpowery? I wouldn't mind either. You know, we're gonna have Daredevil season 3 coming out, and season 3 looks to actually be pretty good, given that I think what is it? Daredevil's character actually seems like it's gonna go somewhere from the Defenders, because we see him kind of waking up in a monastery, and I'm pretty sure from memory, like somebody was telling me that that's like the beginning of like a really important story arc for Daredevil. So I think Daredevil season 3 might be something that people would be more inclined to look forward to if you're interested in the Marvel Netflix series.
Yeah, essentially it feels like it probably a return to form. And yeah, well, once again, we'll see where all these characters go. I'm assuming they're only gonna, like, I don't even think they're even going to be in Infinity Wars, and if they are, they're going to be in the next Avengers film for like 2 minutes. I think it's done. Like, I don't think they're even appearing in any of it. They'll say like one word and be like, yeah, cool, that's done.
Wait, who's going to say one word?
I don't know, someone being like, oh, Tony Stark's gonna be like, yeah, what about those Defender guys in New York or whatever?
So you reckon they're going to actually give him a mention?
They'll give him a mention.
Year?
I don't think they'll even give him screen time. If they do, they're going to give him like 30 seconds of screen time of them beating up things or something. But I don't think it'll be in this film. In Infinity War, it'll be like in Avengers 4, whatever the hell that thing is. So
okay, I personally don't think they're going to give any reference to him, just because like.
Well, once again, I can imagine the Inhumans doesn't get a mention, but like everything else might, you know.
Well, no, I think it's just like there's that disconnect between Marvel TV and Marvel movies. Like, I think it's you know, Kevin Feige, he kind of separated those two departments. Like, you can even see in like
even all these seasons, like I feel like there was no references to it.
There were no references.
But like in the first few seasons, they kind of tried, and now it's just like I don't care.
Actually, no. We're actually completely wrong, because I just remembered we have the Vito, the little kid of Oscar. He has a Captain America toy, and he mentions spider senses. So they do make references to the world, but I don't think the main movies are ever going to give these people any kind of light at all. I don't imagine it being something that becomes a thing. But hey, who knows? I could be proven wrong. Maybe Kevin Feige does give a little bit of scraps from the MCU to these shows, but we'll see. I'd love to be proven.
Yeah. So yeah, that's going to be our talk for just